I'm not a podcaster, but I play one on my podcast. If you are only going to watch one broadband live show over the next hour, we recommend this one. Connect This. Not so great, huh?
Pretty good, actually. Did you work on that one for a while? I like it.
Yeah, I gave a whole 30 seconds of thought to it.
Yeah, you need a new script writer. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Oh, I definitely do, but they're on strike. No, I guess they're back.
True.
That ended. Did that end? I saw.
Nah, it ended for the directors. It ended for some of them, not everybody. Yeah.
Well, we are going to have a fun show talking about a bunch of things around broadband. And because we're not some hack tech show, we're not going to talk about Apple and whatever they're doing. So talking about broadband today, we got Travis Carter, the CEO of USI Fiber in Minneapolis. Welcome.
Mr. Mitchell, thank you. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow and Matt in our office going over a bunch of fiber stuff to figure out what kind of materials we have for our tribal broadband boot camp. So I'm looking forward to tapping some of that knowledge you got.
We will we'll be there 3:00, right?
Yep.
Perfect. What's the date?
Awesome. Doug Dawson, CCG Consulting. Welcome back.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm just very happy that you did not ditch my bad fake title of professional yay sayer. I thought you would kill that right away.
Oh no, that's what all the critics say. They're like, oh, those consultants, they just want to collect a paycheck and tell you, yeah, you can do it. So you're leaning into that.
I'm leaning into it. Wisps all say I'm a naysayer. So,
that's right. They say you're in the naysayers. So it depends on the context. And then we got Kim McKinley, UTOPIA Fiber, CMO, VP. You have any other initials?
I don't know. We'll create some like X, whatever. I don't know. But I'm really excited. Big day here on Connect This. I'm wearing my red glasses, first of all.
Yes.
Second of all, I'm wearing a scrunchie. A scrunchie has never been used in any broadband scenes ever. So I just wanted to make it the first. So awesome. Great to be here. Thank you, Chris.
You're looking bountiful, which I just wanted to say because of the city that you're working with now.
Yes, Bountiful Fiber is our newest partnership. Technically is almost going to be our newest partnership, but yeah, it's a big city right north of Salt Lake, and we are going to be their operational partner for their fiber network. So we are very excited, and some more information to come shortly about that.
Well done.
And is this is not the same old deal that you struck with others in the Utah area, right? Or is that the information that's coming?
No, I mean, it is. It's going to be labeled Bountiful Fiber, powered by UTOPIA Fiber. So it is very different. The city will own the infrastructure, and we are just helping them operate the system, similar to what we're doing for Idaho Falls Fiber and Yellowstone Fiber up in Bozeman.
I have started a campaign to get my wife to go to Salt Lake City with me. I've flown through it several times to get to Albuquerque and some other Southwest locations. And every time I do, I send pictures because it's usually like dawn or setting sun, and it is stunning. It's the best airport to land in that I experience on a regular basis. It's amazing.
You've only gone into the new one. The old one, all the people who've been here a while love the old one because it was easier to get in and out of. But now we have the bright and shiny new one. And for all those people who have ever landed in B Gate at Salt Lake City Airport, we apologize. But that should be fixed soon.
Well, no, I mean more. I don't take photos of the gates or anything. It's like a beautiful lake, all the colors, the mountains. It's pretty.
It's a beautiful city. I would say come at this time of year or the fall. The summer gets very hot and the winter is getting really cold. And here in the high desert, we are experiencing rain every day, which I haven't figured out how we're still experiencing rain. But
okay,
it's Florida weather we've got going on, but it's really nice. So come and visit Chris sometime.
Stuff we are going to talk about today. Oh, and looks like Ezra agrees with you.
Hang on, Chris. Hang on.
Yeah.
Can somebody...
We're going to talk about something important, Travis.
Well, I just want to bring up that. Did we get scooped by Broadband Breakfast on this whole Utopia story? Is that what happened?
Might have been scooped. We didn't even tell them that was going out. They were actually watching the city council meeting when it was voted on. So
we got scooped. Okay.
I mean, Broadband Breakfast exists to try to do like scoops and get news like that out. I think they do a good job. They track a lot of the FCC meetings and things like that. We do not try to do scoops, so we do not track anything.
We bring the funny to broadband, guys. We bring the
Yes.
funny to broadband.
Today we'll be bringing the funny to. We're going to talk a little bit about Westminster breaks even. We're going to talk a little bit about that partnership and why it's an interesting article that they published. One of the people who was Robert Wack, who started that project, wrote an article about it. I want to see if I can get a rise out of Travis by talking about a recent award bestowed upon Longmont as the most popular ISP in the nation, and see if I can get Travis to do a little rant about how we measure such things. We're talking about how Charter loves big government money, something we haven't talked about enough, apparently. Maybe a little bit about maps, some supply chain. You know, we're playing the hits, and then we're going to talk about how Wisconsin Republicans zeroed out $750 million from the state budget during a record surplus to basically say the feds are fixing the problem. We don't need to spend any of our own money. So we're going to talk about that. And if we have time and if people want us to, we're talking about Frontier decommissioning copper, perhaps, at the end. So that's what we got on tap, but always open to being detoured by people in the chat. So feel free to throw in stuff. And also, I just feel like there's a few people who used to be lively in our chat, and we haven't seen them as much lately. So I love the new blood, but would love to just see if the old crew's still around. So let's get started.
Want the OGs. You want the OGs back.
Absolutely,
okay.
yeah. So Travis, you watched the Building for Digital Equity event. Let me just ask you quick. We just did a almost 90-minute event on digital equity on using this platform that Rye ran then, like he runs this. We had a bunch of different speakers talking about ACP and strategies and all kinds of things, what Maine is doing. Did you find anything interesting out of it, aside from the fact that I was chastised for being too chummy with Kim in the previous one?
I guess I listened to 99% of it, and I just think the one thing I took away was Devin Weaver from, I believe it's called Project Waves.
Yeah, in Baltimore.
Yeah, spot on.
Should we ask him to come on?
I'd love to talk to him, because it's he actually had real world experience with what is a common MDU strategy and how terrible it is and how he switched gears. So I thought that was pretty insightful. So it'd be fun to talk to him about it. So
yeah, and my colleague Sean wrote a profile of Devin as well. So when he comes on, we can also tease him because he's a lot older than he looks. I was like, dang, this kid's a prodigy, and he still seems like a prodigy, but he's also older than he looks, so that helps a little bit. I was like, this kid's 19 and he's like already building these amazing networks, but he's not.
No. I was it sounds impressive, so it'd be fun to hear more about it.
Yep. So the supply chain update, let's start there. Travis, why don't you start, and then we'll see who else wants to jump in. You've had a couple of discussions.
Many a phone call lately from our suppliers in this industry. They have ample supply.
The plain black hat suppliers?
Yes.
The plain black t-shirt suppliers?
The t-shirt and the glasses. But no, there is ample supply in the supply chain now. So if anyone was ever thinking of getting into the broadband business, today is your lucky day. You should be able to get plenty of pieces and parts.
Except if you need funding.
Banks are giving money. Oh, yeah, no, that's not happening anymore. And interest rates are at an all-time high. And
not an all-time, just a recent high.
Oh yeah, sorry. Since the Woodrow Wilson administration,
my parents had like an 18% mortgage, I think.
There was an 18% mortgage in the 70s. Yeah, that wasn't that long.
Mitchell and I, you ever have dinner with Mitchell? Well, during the Lincoln administration, broadband was, it was a lot better than it was today.
For some reason, people don't have dinner with me that often, Travis.
Yeah, exactly.
That's because you bring too much fun.
Yes. So no, there is. But
this is not a permanent. Supply. This is not a permanent solution to the supply chain, right? You're not saying that.
I wouldn't say it's permanent. I think what happened is a lot of these manufacturers and vendors were assuming that all this government money was going to be hitting the street sooner than it is, so they've ramped up production, and they are overfilled with inventory right now.
And then they will slow down production, and then the government money will finally hit, and it'll go the other direction.
So
Yeah.
this is the time. I mean, for anyone who I feel like the audience of this show is a lot of great people that do stuff. It's not my normal audience where I feel like I'm more often talking to people who are in government and stuff like that. But this would be a great time for governments to be stockpiling stuff, right? Get some warehouses, like fill them up with these supplies. Make sure that your
it's only going to get more expensive. Now's the time to buy.
Kim?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for letting me go. So a lot of last year around this time, or even earlier this year, you're seeing a lot of those vendors like do massive hirings. What do we see on that front? Are they laying them off, or are they keeping them employed right now during this slow time until some of that government money comes out? Do we know?
Don't know.
No, the sense I got was that the lines are still running, and they're just looking for anything to keep the lines going, because they do know that there's going to be a demand happening. So trying to keep that workforce trained up. So, but it's kind of an interesting problem, because if you do the analysis and you say, hey, I want to grab a whole bunch of product, but you're paying 9% interest on dollars now, where you used to be paying 4.5%, the math doesn't really work that well. So we are, it's currently in a lull. So builders that are currently building should have a easy time getting product. But I think, as Doug and Kim alluded to, it might be a rough 2025.
Right.
Yeah, so that's when the money's going to hit. I mean, we went through this in the last show. I think some money will be out in the summer of maybe the late summer or fall of 2024. I think we're thinking being distributed to vendors, right? States are getting the money at the end of states are going to start getting the money sometime next year, but it depends on how long it takes NTIA to review the applications. And I would not anticipate that states even have money to distribute until the early part of next year. And it will take them like 6 months to get it out on the street, probably, right?
Now, don't forget that once you get it, you probably have to go and do environmental studies and stuff first. It will not be shocking to not see construction until 26.
So is this the case always? I mean, when I look at right now, California, if you're on the CPUC or the CASF distribution list, you're getting hit with like everyone's putting in their projects. And it's really great seeing that the wonderful company Frontier is putting in for a bunch of projects in areas where we already paid them to build 10.1 DSL, because in the immortal words of FCC Commissioner O'Reilly, why would we want to build a Cadillac when we could give people a Chevy? And so we are just putting money into households that already got a bunch of subsidies to build a new thing, because the financial genius over there thought it would be better to pay them over and over again rather than paying them one time to do the job right. At any rate, there's all these, and they all say, like, basically, we don't believe that we have to do CEQA under these applications. There's some like for that, and so like this is what I don't fully understand.
Now that's ARPA money. ARPA money does not require that. The B grants are going to require it. So.
But I had thought that, like, in a number of cases, they're justifying it because it's on existing utility right of way on disturbed lands where the road is already there and that sort of a thing.
That's what you would think, but that's the big debate about how that works. Yeah. So we'll see. Yep.
Kim, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say you almost went on a rant there, so I was getting very excited for a rant at 15 minutes in.
I mean, it is. So the FCC has a wonderful map. I'm just going to lay that out there. The FCC now has put on, and I don't know how long it's been up there. I'm really curious, actually. Maybe someone here will know. But it has a map of where the CAF 2 awards went, right? This is the money that, for instance, AT&T got like $300 million in Mississippi, and no one in Mississippi got better broadband, which is interesting. But like now they have maps of all of those locations and when it was supposedly installed. I was looking at them for New Mexico and California and some other stuff. And so kudos to the FCC for making that available now, many years after.
The map's only 10 years late. It's only 10 years old. Yeah.
So, but like, it is interesting to overlay that and to see, like, Frontier going to get more government money for the same households that they already supposedly improved upon. But Doug, you've said that in many of these cases that the networks weren't even built under the Connect America Fund, CAF 2.
Oh no, there's just tons of places where there was zero construction. I can go out still today and I can find ADSL cabinets from 15 years ago where they supposedly got the money. Yeah.
But Frontier is a new company, guys. Haven't we read all their press releases and everything that they've submitted
Well,
out there? They are a new and loving and fiber only company.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
why wouldn't we believe them?
But it was also AT&T, and it was also CenturyLink. They all
Don't
did
try
it.
to be smart. Don't try to
CenturyLink's
be
also a
smart
new
in that
company.
comment.
CenturyLink is 2 new companies.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, the supply chain is interesting, in that now is a great time, and I would think states would really be smart to be buying a bunch of product right now and warehousing it like some states like New Mexico have that in their plan. So go ahead, Travis.
Yeah. So the other feedback I got from the vendors is a substantial number of projects are now on hold because of the cost of capital.
Projects from like AT&T's dialed back by like 1 million homes, I think, and some stuff like that.
Well,
right?
these are even smaller operators. I mean, it's just more expensive. And now what is percolating to the top is people are just having a really hard time getting enough construction people to actually build these networks.
So this is something. I mean, I feel like I've heard this so many times, and I keep asking people, like, do you know of projects where they have not been able to proceed because they don't have enough people? And I feel like we don't hear that, but we keep hearing people complaining about it. So,
well, I think how they're saying it and how they're framing it is, let's say that they were going to do, just for conversation, 100 miles of deployment. Now they're only doing 70 miles of deployment. So they're still deploying. They're just the bigger idea the bigger plan was being reduced.
You can't get the crews out there, and maybe not the right crews, Chris. I think that's a part of this discussion, is that some of these crews people don't want to hire. They might be available, but if you're going to go into doing this project, you want a trusted partner. There's a lot of aspects of this that I think are not being misrepresented. Like how many crews, like Travis just said, how many crews are on the grounds right now? Like up in Bozeman, we have a lot of crews trying to build as fast as they can in that city when we have it available to us before the freeze hits again. So it's very, very interesting of how you're seeing it. So I think it's how it's phrased. It's marketing at its finest. What do you want it to be today?
Now, here's what I'm seeing on smaller projects. The crews are getting poached. And so, a crew will have an experienced supervisor, and he just gets a much better job doing from a bigger company. And every 2 weeks, another guy's gone, and they have to keep trying to replace him. And the people they're replacing with are not as experienced, or there's a gap. They don't replace them for a while. This industry has got a huge amount of poaching of jobs. I mean, are you seeing that in Bozeman? I mean, people are not staying at the, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more subs, right? It's the same thing you just said.
It's the subs.
That you might have something that they are going to say 2 days ago that you could get this, but then, somebody came in and paid too much and they pull them off. We have definitely seen that.
Yeah. So
some of our projects.
The projects are in major turmoil. And if you keep changing your crews, it just really slows you down and messes you up. So,
and there's nothing more that cities like more than having random subs show up and working and then leaving,
who are no longer following the rules like this.
That goes over so well.
Yes, indeed.
So well.
Yeah. So there is a massive amount of turmoil. It's not as apparent as not being able to hire anybody. To me, it's not being able to keep people. So
yeah.
So let's move on to Longmont, recent guest on the show, as we noted last week as well, or last show as well. They had been named the fastest ISP in the nation once or twice, and then they were also the second fastest by the speed test measurements that PC Mag does. I'll just pause for a second and say that PC Mag has been doing this using a fairly consistent methodology, and I think that's probably more important than the actual methodology. But PC Magazine also recommended me buying this webcam, not the one I'm using right now, but a replacement that I'm not using because it sucks so bad. And they said it was the best. So I don't know. PC Magazine may have gotten it right on Longmont by accident. Nonetheless, PC Magazine now says that Longmont is the most popular ISP in the nation. So, Travis, how do you respond to that?
I like him more than Travis.
I don't know. I have no idea. What are the metrics?
The metrics are who's the most popular.
I don't.
What does most popular mean?
I have no idea.
I know, right?
We don't know.
Yeah. It sounds like one of those sponsored articles.
I think that Longmont gets invited to more birthday parties is what I
Yeah.
think. It is.
I mean, I suspect that what it is like in terms of like a proportion of the area that they serve, like some sort of like either survey or some combination of rankings. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, like Longmont's captured like what almost 60% of the market, I think. They're going up against Comcast and CenturyLink, and so people love them. But I just wanted to poke Travis because I know that Travis.
But
Travis
you know how I measure Travis's popularity? His customers don't churn.
Yeah.
Right. No, exactly. But I mean, that's the thing is that I look at Travis and like when I talk to Travis about different things, I'm like, hey, how come you guys don't do video? And you did the whole research, you had the linear product, you were ready to go with it, and then you said, this might screw up our customer rating. They might not like us as much, so you pulled back on it. There's been like multiple technologies where Travis is like, the reason that we're not doing this is because we think people might not like it. So like. I got to think that you're probably one of the more liked ISPs in the nation. So I just want to poke you.
Here's how I know an article doesn't hold a lot of weight with me. Is when you look at the article and Verizon 5G is a 7.9.
Right.
Do I really need to say more?
Okay.
Because
I thought of that too.
There is a ton of complaints about Verizon 5G on that web. So
I'll give one after Kim goes
on it. I mean, seriously,
I thought I left it up, but I was reading it and I was like, the lowest rated is 5 or something. Well, what's the bottom one, Travis?
5.9.
Yeah, 5.9. There's no way that everybody feels like that their ISP is a 5.9 or higher when you're seeing the net promoter scores of these the big truck companies at negative numbers, and they're happy to get it in the positives.
Right. So you're not saying that Longmont is negative. You're saying that like the other ones in the list are suspicious.
Yeah, Longmont, kudos to you. I like cheering for Muni Broadband. Good for them. I believe that they have a great customer experience. Most popular, who knows? Yeah, the other guys, when they're in the 7s or 6s, no way.
Here's what I always figure, Kim. I figured the scales from 5 to 10. So if you're a 5.6, you're really a 15%.
I actually looked at that, Doug. It goes from 0 to 10. That's what even made it a little more suspicious.
But nobody's below 5. Yes.
Hey, can I tell my 5G story real quick? So we switched to AT&T, and it sucked. Like the phone would drop all the time, et cetera, et cetera. You know what AT&T's answer was? Turn off 5G.
Oh yeah, not surprised.
Ever since I did that, it's worked fine.
Yeah, 4G's great.
So and I've heard that too, and I've been having trouble with. I had been on T-Mobile through Ting, and now I am on Verizon again through Ting, and I was having problems with 5G, so I went to 4G, and I kept it on 4G with T-Mobile, and that was all right. And then I finally got the SIM card for Verizon network again, which I wanted because of all the travel I do, where T-Mobile has not the amazing network. And here, like Travis called me the other day, and I couldn't answer the phone. Like it just said mobile network gone, and I keep getting this over and over again. It doesn't matter if I'm in 4G, 5G. The network has degraded. I'm in the heart of St. Paul in a major residential area. It's like all single family homes, not hard to serve. And every time as I drive around, it's hard to keep phone calls.
But they started selling people home broadband on it, and they sucked all the bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
Well, I want to mirror Kim's sentiment. Congratulations to Nextlight for being the number one. We'll leave it at that.
We have Doug was the one that said we haven't talked about maps enough. So I have not yet fully reviewed it. I've heard from our mapping guru, Christine, on my team that these are not the maps we've been waiting for.
These are not the maps we've been waiting for. And let me just give you one real life example, because now they're going to give the money out, right? Today I was working with an electric co-op. We were just looking at detailed at places he might be able to go for grants. And there's one little tiny
back up
town.
a second. You just glitched. Back up a second.
So working with an electric co-op, looking at a tiny town, trying to figure out where he can get grants. And this whole town has about 100 homes. And one of the major telcos is claiming 300 megabit DSL in town.
Oh, breakthrough.
Which is, and when I first saw that, I go, well, maybe they have G-Fast at an apartment complex. No, they're claiming it at every home. And then as you start going outside of town, it drops to 115 and 90. And as you get really far out of town, it goes to 10, which is what I think it is in town also. But yet that probably took away, 50 homes from the broadband map, and that's one little place. That's 50 homes that are completely considered to be served when they're probably unserved. Because the ones in town, there is a cable company, so that's okay in the town. But when you get to the fringes of town, these things are actually killing the broadband map. And you take this little problem and you multiply it times 1,000 other problems, I think it's still massively off. Because no one's making challenges of that. There's no one in that town making a challenge against the DSL. No one cares. And so the broadband, a lot of the broadband offices are not looking at that granular detail, so they didn't fix it. Or else they fixed it and MapQuest didn't take the challenge. I mean, who knows, right? But the maps are terrible at the granular level.
Kim either wants to jump in or has a Girl Scout salute. I can't tell which.
I just am so amazed that Doug is actually a little passionate that the maps weren't fixed on round 2.
Well, you just take this one little problem and it cost that state $250,000 of grant money.
I'm not
That's
saying
a lot
it
of
doesn't,
money.
Doug. I'm just saying
I know
that you seem to have some hope that these were going to come back swinging with better maps.
I knew they never would. I don't think the maps will ever be good. I don't think they'll be good 10 years from now.
No, it's gross. And I mean, this is, Travis and I disagree on politics a fair amount, but like I can appreciate why people would basically feel that like government doesn't do things right and can't, when you look at just how bad this is. And it's one thing if the FCC was like, you know what, we understand, like we have a problem here, we're trying to figure it out. But the way they keep bragging about how excited they are,
my near
what a
rant
great
is
job they're doing.
My near rant is about them bragging about it, and NTIA going, well, it's good enough. This is not a good combination of agencies here.
And I was talking to a reporter and about challenges and why we don't see more challenges and what the results are. And they asked us if we were doing any bulk challenges. And I was just thinking about the mechanics of that because of the way the FCC keeps locking everyone out. Like we have videos of Christine just like over 30 seconds, just like walking around, like looking at the map and just getting locked out by the API. It's ridiculous.
Okay, that was our near rant. We were close.
Okay, but I just need to know, Travis. But if we spent more money on it, you think we would get some better maps?
I mean, that's what I just don't understand. I mean, it's insulting the lack of money we allocated towards this map. So, insulting. But I spent some time on the map, and I thought I'd take a different angle at this map, and I tried to find any place in the country that it would make sense to set up shop, given their information, and try to do like a greenfield grassroots effort with a brand new ISP. I haven't been able to find one. So if there's anyone on here that watches this, if the fan could point me in a direction, because I can't see where anybody's going to do anything other than the incumbents that are out there. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think Alan's on here. He'll find you something.
I think there's places to go. I just don't think the map will help you find them.
No, where would you go? How could you set up shop? And how could it be financially viable for the long term? It needs to stand on its own.
I do want to note that my complaint was resolved. I don't think that this is not my understanding of how it was supposed to work, but after months after my complaint or my challenge was upheld, Nextera and this iteration of the data now claims, I believe, 50 megabits symmetrical or something like that, or 30 megabits symmetrical rather than gigabit symmetrical for the whole neighborhood. So I had expected to see my neighbors getting advertised gigabit and me just having 30 or whatever, but they have fixed that. And I'm curious if some of the other ISPs that were known to have been overly aggressive in making their claims have adjusted them. But obviously, Doug, not that
Michigan lost tens of thousands of passings because wireless providers came on and increased their speeds on the map, not on their real life, just on the map.
Well, I'm curious to see what happens there. I mean, I think people are going to be digging into that, and it'll be fascinating to see how NTIA deals with that because. If it's one of those things where like, oh, well, like this will be worked out like long after the money is spent. Oh, great. Well, obviously those ISPs were smart then to have done that, although they probably made a few enemies in Michigan.
It's only 400 million are not going to get
I would like to see if Mike Conlow would like to come on and talk about that, because I think he's been talking about that. So I haven't been able to follow that very closely because I'm so many things going on and I've just been wanting to track it down, but this is something I haven't been tracking as closely since that map data came out.
All right, we're done with maps. That's it.
Yep. Too much. Westminster, Maryland is northwest of Baltimore. It's in Carroll County. It's quite rural. It's quite conservative, especially by Maryland standards. And they built a municipal fiber network on the order of 10 years ago. They started. And it was an interesting public-private partnership, which Robert Wack, who's a friend, and I think a real sharp thinker on this, he was a city council president. He pushed for it. And they partnered with Ting. And in fact, they were the second Ting project, I believe. And they have an interesting deal that I thought was a well-structured public-private partnership. We've written about it in the past. They finished building, I think, 4 years ago. Robert Wack wrote an article in Broadband Communities magazine about it, in which he said that and this is a quote, in the next several months, subscriber growth will begin generating sufficient revenue for the city to cover the debt service on the general obligation bonds sold to finance the project. This is well ahead of the planned timeline, a major success. And so the last thing I'll say as I'm going through this wonderful Shakespearean soliloquy on broadband is that when they financed it, they did not do what most municipal broadband projects have done. This is a citywide project. Most citywide projects have issued bonds that were revenue bonds, and they did not use taxpayer dollars to back them. Often it's through a utility, and it could be complicated, but the goal is that the network does not use any taxpayer or ratepayer money. It is financed solely by the revenues of the project. In Westminster, as well as in Fair Lawn, Ohio, they said, we're going to issue general obligation bonds, which basically means the taxpayers will cover it. And we're going to generate revenue. And if we generate enough revenue, great. And if we don't, great. We're just going to build infrastructure the way we build roads. And it looks like, taxpayers in Westminster will have had some of their taxpayer dollars used to build the network and cover some of those operating costs over the past few years. But now it's fully paying for itself. And in the future, we'll be contributing back to the general fund in ways that will lower the pressure on taxpayers. So I just thought I think it's a very interesting story.
Well, and they just said, look, it's to the benefit of the community, and the community should pay for it. I mean, it's that straight. Just like you do anything else they build. So.
Yeah. I think you're going to see it. I think you're going to see this happening more and more. I think communities are sick and tired of being promised these things. I think Robert Wack, I love hearing Robert Wack's perspective if anybody ever gets to hear him speak, because he speaks as a person who fought the battle and has come out on top, but took some arrows in that process to get to where they are now. So I think Robert Wack should be very thrilled about this news. Yeah.
This is the show where we just figure out who to bring on in future episodes.
We're going to invite everyone. We're going to invite everybody. Yes.
So you consider this a success?
100%. They were a Comcast monopoly. Now they have municipal fiber everywhere. They have competition. They have great service from this company Ting, and the network will generate revenue that will go back into the general fund in the future. So in every way, it's a success.
They're a small enough town. Nobody else was going to build fiber there. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I understand. So I mean, again, I would like to understand the financial side of this here, because the way I read it is,
well, it took them a long time to build.
Yeah, 2010, the 33% increase in taxes. Okay.
And well, that was not for the broadband network. That was
what it was for. This is a dollar's a dollar, right? So I would like to. This is a good thing to raise with Robert, because I'll just say like when I hear 33% increase in taxes, I'm reminded of a fight, and I want to say like North Carolina, where the ISPs were freaking out because the municipal electric companies had raised their poll rates by like 50% or 100%. It was just crazy. And it turns out they had not raised the rates for 38 years. And so like percentages, like there's other things that go into it. So there was a large tax increase, and multiple people in the city government lost their job, and like the city council lost their job because of that increase in taxes, although Robert did not. So there is a background to it, Travis, that I would just relevant, because on the surface it looks like the taxpayers got stuck with this for 13 years or something, the operating expense on this network. So I would just be curious to understand the real math on it.
Yeah, well, I think Robert will be able to provide that.
I think this is a question and a discussion where I think people are not had about muni networks is being financially break even the success that the city's entering these partnerships for, or are they trying to, what does success look like for each community? Because I think success can look different for each community, and we never really talk about that. We always base it on financial success.
Right. And financial success, again, I think this is where municipal finances are interesting. And in that, Fair Lawn is, I think, a good example where I don't know the exact numbers, but they had a similar issue where they took money out of their road budget because they had some of the nicest roads in that entire, I think, Northeast Ohio, and they were known for that. And they're a community that has a lot of businesses, and that was an important part of their identity. And they basically said, we're going to take some money out of the road budget. We're going to build a fiber network with some other funds as well. And we're going to operate it. That network has like 60% take rate. It just lowered the price of the gigabit. I think they're a little bit less than $70 a month now. It has brought in more new businesses that contribute to the tax base than it costs to do. And so, this is where municipal finances are interesting in ways that households are not. Although the household finance is kind of similar, like a student loan. I mean, like I borrowed $100,000 from, between my parents and myself about to go through private college. And I have finally paid that off. And in that time, that was an incredible stress on my household budget. However, my household budget has increased like significantly more because I have a much better job than I would have had otherwise, potentially.
Well, and that's the thing. Municipal accounting doesn't take any of those benefits into consideration. I mean, let's just say that they were losing $100,000 a year, but the city might have saved $150,000 on their own utility bills because of this. They were actually $50,000 ahead. They don't add those things together. They simply go, here's the money into the broadband utility, here's the cash out, and they go, look, it's losing money. And it very well even be making money. I mean, nobody does the real math. Remember, Chattanooga did a study that showed that network over 10 years brought them, I don't know what, $2.7 billion of benefits that are not counted in their financial number. You have to look at the whole big holistic picture, and nobody wants to do that. So you look at Wilson, North Carolina, they will tell you it's the best thing they ever did.
And I think Wilson's a great example, but the best anecdote that I think explains this is Windham. Windham is a tiny town. They built a fiber network, and on the year that they were supposed to be breaking even, they had a Fortune Trucking is the name of a company that was located just like a mile outside of town. And Fortune Trucking had asked the big company that I believe is now CenturyLink, had asked them basically, we're making a big IT investment. Can you support this with a high quality connection? And the company was like, yes. And they bought this big IT system for the trucking company, and the telephone company said, oh, we're wrong. We can't support that. We don't have the bandwidth for you. And so they called up the town, that was really close by and said, you all have a fiber network. We need you to connect us, or else we're going to send these jobs. And I think it was to New Mexico, to another facility where we're going to install that IT system. And so they ended up losing money because they had to build a 1 mile line that was very hard on this. Like, I mean, we're talking about a town that has like 2,000. Very
tiny town.
Yeah, it's like 4,500 people, like 2,000 subs maybe, in the entire town. And so it put them back in the red. But like they were in the red by like tens of thousands of dollars, whereas they had prevented 50 jobs from leaving town. That is like the best investment on jobs that any city could ever make. Local, like state governments will pay like $50,000 to $100,000 to create a job. If you can pay $5,000 and create a job, that's remarkable.
Yes.
So anyway, Travis, I appreciate you like looking into that, and I'll be very curious for like a knowledgeable conversation about why the taxes were increased. I had talked with Robert about that back in the day, and he did say it was for multiple reasons. I think it was one of those things where they had not raised taxes for multiple years. That's also coming out of the recession, where they probably had a significant decrease in their sales tax revenues and other and probably property tax. Well, property taxes must have cratered, I'm guessing, around that time. So.
In 08, after 08, obviously it did.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious if these things are measured differently, that's fine. The way I think, at least that I have to build a network is it has to stand on its own. There's no backstop. There's no taxpayer dollars. There's no nothing. So if it can't stand on its own, it's tough to stay in business.
Right. And that's where I think it is really important that people understand that difference between a public balance sheet and a private balance sheet. And that's one of the reasons why I think we'll see more public investment that hopefully will make private balance sheets better in some ways, whether that's a different arrangement of open access or something else. But there's a lot of opportunities there to, I think, take advantage of public balance sheets to try
But let's be honest here, Travis. You didn't make money your first 3 or 4 or 5 years. You subsidized it somehow out of your own
Oh
personal.
yeah,
money.
yeah. No.
And that's what the cities have to do too. You have to subsidize it in the beginning.
The thing is,
But then it has to stand on its own. So
all these fiber networks should be able to stand on their own. I mean, when this town, what is it called, Westminster? It's like 6 square miles. It's not that big.
Right.
So once it's built and the construction is done, it shouldn't take long to pay off the debt, regardless of how you financed it. So if this is such an attractive model, I'm surprised that more.
Well, now part of this model, Travis, they're not the retail ISP. They're not keeping all the money.
They're partnered with Ting.
They're partnered with somebody who's doing all the
Do
actual
you have any
ISP
idea how
work.
that revenue is split up or not?
We kind of know, but not enough to say.
Yeah. So in this case, Ting, if I recall correctly, Ting pays $7 for every house that is passed that does not take service, and $22 for every house that is passed that does take service. And so it was structured that way. And those numbers could be wrong, but I have a document with a contract in it.
Like that. And this way, the city didn't have to hire employees. They're not running the business.
Okay.
But also they provide an incentive for Ting to really want to ramp up that rate, because the danger is what Kim faced in the early years, not Kim, but her predecessors, where, they had an open access network and people came, like an ISP came on the network and they were like, cool, we've got 10 customers. We're making money. We don't care how long it takes us to get to 100. And meanwhile, Utopia is like, we need you to get to 100.
Yeah. You're relying your revenue stream on somebody else, which is never a great idea. But I think Ting, and I think you're seeing a lot of these Ting partnerships. You're seeing this all over. I mean, you're seeing this in a lot of markets, because it's a safe way for cities to get into this and own the asset without actually having to operate it. I think the scary part of these deals is what happens in a few years. Like, is Ting going to stay there, or is it attractive to other ISPs if Ting wants to depart? Like, what is
he addresses that in the article? Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see that too, because, and I think we want to move on to another subject, but yeah, the idea is that there will be open access. I think that they've found the market is too small to attract anyone else.
They won't get it. They might get a little guy, but yeah.
But Travis was wrapping up a point that, Doug, when you came in, which is a good one, which is, if this is so great, why don't we see other cities doing it? And I think the answer is that it takes real political leadership, because, Robert Wack and others, they paid a price for this. And I think, they made the investment, and other people were like, oh, like, is this really that important? And like, it's hard to explain the value of this over time to people, especially when they have to stand for election before the network is generating revenue. So like, the politics of this are extremely hard.
Well, and let's be honest, not every town is going to have a Fortune 500 move into them because of the fiber network.
Right.
Those are going to be the few and far between. So the bigger question is, and this is what I've never understood, if you're a young person graduating college now and you're from a small town, are you going to move back to that small town if they don't have proper internet access?
No.
Heck no.
Yeah.
No, the stats are very clear. Like, I mean, it's hard to get the younger people to move back to those towns, but without broadband, without fiber, like, it's not happening. And they need high quality access. And the numbers, like, there's an organization called the Daily Yonder, which is the Center for Rural Strategies, I think, operates it's a progressive rural focus of research and writing, and they've looked at census dollars to get census numbers to see where people are moving, and they have found that there's a lot of evidence that people are moving, particularly younger people, to where there's high quality internet access in more rural areas.
Should these
I'm coming.
Go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
I was just going to make a really bad joke. Is this the can I use this reason for the reason why I didn't move back home or back east when I graduated college? It's not because of family. It's broadband. It was broadband. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, that was in what, like 1963?
Okay, so
okay.
This is a topic I'm certainly not well versed in, but if I was a small town in middle America, having a broadband network would be certainly a solid defensive strategy, so I didn't lose all my tax base. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's the exact same thing with the electric co-op, where that business model again is different in that if electric co-op builds a fiber network and then loses money on it every year, which by the way, many of them are actually structurally designed not to be able to do by law or by policy, but nonetheless, it would be a smart move economically if it increased their electricity sales. Because the electric co-op, people talk about fiber being expensive, but it's not. Electricity is expensive. Water systems are expensive. And if you can increase your electricity sales by driving more demand, more economic growth, more population in migration into your electric co-op, that's where you survive or die. So the fiber is like it's an also ran.
Well, I mean, I'll just ask the final question on this topic. If any of you guys were moving anywhere what would your first question be on a new property? I mean, mine would be, who's the broadband provider?
Weather.
Yeah.
It's going to be one.
Yeah.
It would be one of my top 3. I think it would be one of my top 3. Absolutely.
I cannot imagine a scenario where I'd move to a place that did not have a fiber connection from a reliable entity.
I mean, why would you? Remember we had that guy on where he was like, it was around the corner and he didn't have any internet, but he bought the house. So
yeah, Jeff.
I was so surprised that isn't like question number 1.
Oh no, he did check, and
they told him they had it. They told him
he had it.
He checked the government map.
Two companies told him they had it.
Yeah, he checked the government map as well as Charter, I believe, and both of them said it was there. So yeah,
Charter and I think CenturyLink both said they had it. Yeah.
Back to the maps. You guys thought they would be dependable. You should have known better.
All right.
So see the fiber jack before you move in. So
yes.
All right.
Charter loves big government money. Took down half of the money in Florida. Wow. Another state with Florida and North Carolina, both known for having let's just say
charter
paid for legislatures.
Charter love, we call it here.
Yeah, they love charter. They love that charter money for the elected officials and the state legislators, and they sure returned it nicely. Charter didn't just take home all the money. I think they also got their wish list on the polls, didn't they?
Yes.
It's just gross. The state of California has decided to like try and build a monopoly with Charter. And then, these same people who voted for that will turn around in 4 years and say, I can't believe this. How did this happen? Government has obviously responsible for this monopoly, although it was their vote that did it.
Now, in Charter's defense, they are out building a lot of fiber in Western North Carolina and East Tennessee in places where if you look at it, you go, who the hell would build fiber here? I mean, this is wooded, narrow country roads that are a mess, and they're building fiber. They're out doing it. So
yeah, it's a huge improvement over CenturyLink taking the money and not doing it. But
they're gonna be the permanent monopoly.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing.
That's their strategy. They've never had monopolies before.
I mean, this is where we saw some very smart people behind the scenes pushing electric co-ops and others to say, actually, you think building fiber in a rural area is a bad investment. It is a brilliant 20-year investment. It's a shit 5-year investment. But over 20, 25 years, like you're going to be rolling in the dough because you're going to have 100% uptake and ain't no one going to come compete with you except for maybe a few people with like, maybe Alan will be out there with Tirana, like picking off some folks, but like there's not going to be, a fiber competitor. So you're building a monopoly, and a lot of people didn't get it, but I think Charter does. They get it that absent another government program, they are not going to face competition there. Although there will be wireless, and this is why I think wireless is so important because if the Charter service,
there won't be wireless out in Eastern Tennessee, and not a lot of it. So yeah.
I mean, we'll see what happens with new technologies and whatnot. I'm curious. I mean, but like, there's going to be an economic incentive to come in and try to serve those people because Charter is going to be charging them $150 a month while I'm paying $100 a month. You can bet that. So let's move on to the last key topic.
No. I just need to know: is anybody surprised that they got $60 million that they got half?
We got 30 of the 60,
or 30 of 60. Yeah.
I keep being surprised. I mean, none of us. If you came on this show 2 years ago and said Charter is going to be the biggest recipient of this money, and they're going to be building fiber to all of these places, we would have been
I would have been surprised by that.
Yeah.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Well,
no, Kim.
who else?
Go ahead, Travis. What did you say?
I don't understand about these maps. Who else is going to do it? I mean, none of us are going to go and build fiber.
There's lots of folks building. Like, I just remember we had Robert Boyle on from Planet Networks in New Jersey. Like, I was just talking to him, and he was out driving around checking out new stuff. He's building in different places. Like, people are building. Like, there's
quite a
finding
few
ways.
people. Quite a few
all the
people
way
building
around.
if they get a lot of people building if they get the grants. I mean, this is grant money we're talking about,
But
here,
not in these holes in an incumbent's area. There's no one's going to go in there.
No, people are. So if, for instance, if there's a grant in an area and there's, let's call it 1,000 homes that are unserved in a wide area, and there's another 10,000 homes that are served by charter, and you can pick up a bunch of money to serve those 1,000 homes, and you know that you can pick up 40 or 50% of the market where charter is because charter sucks so much. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good business case.
Who are you going to buy your backhaul from? Charter? How
I
are you
mean,
gonna-
well, this is
how
where
you
like
gonna-
it will
how you
depend,
gonna-
right? I mean, like different states, you're going to have different things, but obviously someone's finding backhaul in some of these places.
No, they're not. Because you can't buy it from the government, because you can't buy it from the long haul guys. You can't. You can buy.
What do
it
you mean
from-
you can't buy it from the long haul guys? Like,
Well,
The
because
long haul guys aren't in the middle of nowhere.
they're not. They're not in the nowhere. And if they are, this is just
But, like,
flyover
so-
country for them.
but
They're
like,
not
let's just
They're
so
not gonna add
we're
drop you for your
but
1,000.
we're imagining different spaces. I'm talking about a place where you have 1,000 rural homes scattered around 10,000 areas where charter is, which means an area of density. There's someone that is going to be close enough by to make that business case work. I think the electric. I mean, like if you look at like North Carolina, for instance, all the
Hey.
electric co-ops are working together.
Where's my
and-
magic wand here? This,
No, I think this is exactly why California is putting the middle mile in,
this
because
is,
they know they can't do it. The private, if these cities went out and tried to endeavor on this, they wouldn't. So
I hate
California's
to break it
doing
to you,
this.
Chris. It's not happening, Chris. I hate to.
What do you
break
mean
it.
it's not happening? Let's go drive around Vermont. Let's go drive around New Hampshire. Let's go
Okay, you
drive
might
around
have-
Maine. Like it's happening.
You might have one or two.
Vermont is not low density like some of these places.
Yeah, this is not happening. I
Wait,
hate to
Vermont's
break
not- Vermont is the lowest density state.
Oh my
It is the-
goodness.
Not along the roads where people live. It's not.
No.
Not houses per mile.
Travis, you just mentioned,
Yes.
like you just said, like you have when you drive around in your RV, you're constantly running into like these different signs of these different companies who are building. Are they building like non-internet networks?
They're building the high density areas in their town. They're not picking off the 1,000 little farms out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, there's a lot of people doing it, Travis.
Well, I-
Yeah.
All over,
I would love to
they're doing it all over Minnesota. I'll
Am
get
I the
you
only one who
that.
feels like Doug's agreeing with everyone right now? Like I don't understand.
I'm convinced.
I am a professional yay sayer.
99% of this money is going to the incumbents, and don't be surprised.
Not 99%. I'm
Every
sticking
time
with.
you bring up Charter got this, Frontier got that, I'm like, yeah, duh. Who else would get it?
First
There's
of all,
nobody
a lot
else
of
there.
a
There's
lot
the
of
one-
electric co-ops. A lot of electric co-ops are doing it. There's a lot of folks that are building. There's like, I mean, we can go through the states are listing who's getting the money.
I would.
But no, Travis, I'm going to defend you on this. But they might be building, but are they sustainable in 10 years to still be running a business?
The incumbent, because here's you know
I think
you
they
want
will
to know what the play is in our industry right now, and this is the common, and people don't talk about this, but I hear it from people all the time. Let all these people fight over this government money, build all this stuff, and we're going to swoop in and buy this up for 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's what people have claimed about municipal networks too. They're like, oh, they all fail. Well, show me how many of them have sold their stuff off. Like we have a record of it, and it's a fraction of them, which is actually technically like a weird thing to say because of course it's a fraction of them. Like, but you know what I mean.
But a couple of them who sold actually sold for more than they paid for it. They sold it because they got a nice check and they said, well, I don't really want to be an ISP. I'll sell my network. Right?
Or
Well,
they were unable to expand because the state wouldn't
Right.
let them, and they wanted a regional strategy.
Or the guy in Westminster, or like Kim's got the right plan. The city doesn't try to do it all themselves.
Mhm,
They get a competent ISP partner to come in and work with them.
mhm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a perfectly
And
valid way to go about it.
Maybe that's the key move. Maybe that's the pro move here.
No, I think it depends on where you are. Like people are the key. If you can hire the right people, then do it. And if you're looking around and you're like, oh, we have no one capable of doing this, then yeah, you want to find that partner.
I just got to ask that you two not disagree because I can't agree with both of you.
But I feel like this weird thing where Travis is like there was no middle mile there. I'm like, well, someone's building. Like we're seeing lots of people building, right? I mean, like this is
a lot of these rural areas. the middle mile is provided by the incumbent.
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right about that. Yeah.
There is,
I mean,
but
but like this is the part that like I don't fully understand, because I feel like, you know, a lot of these areas, I'm not sure, like I'm sure there's tons of areas that are like that, but if you're like up in like Oregon, for instance, and we're, you know, like you have those big BTOP networks in northeastern Minnesota, southwestern Minnesota, in Oregon, you know, like north of Mount Hood and west of, and around Clackamas County, like there's a lot of places where like fiber has been put in specifically for middle mile over the years. Like some states have built it, like you had the 3-ring binder up in Maine, like, you know, and I feel like, you know, the California thing, like you can make the same argument after California gets done arguing, because there's just going to be different places then where you still have to build. There's always going to be a middle mile problem, but like I think these ISPs have a spreadsheet in which they have a sense of what their backhaul is going to be, and whether they have to build it, they're incorporating those costs into it, or if they have some other issue for it.
True. I mean, we have a nice government-owned middle mile network here in North Carolina. People have done it, so yeah.
I think it's interesting too, but you're seeing some of these competitors who are selling backhaul to the new guys. Lumen is like the perfect example of who's selling backhaul, and then also being the ILEC and those.
I think they make as much money as they used to make, and now they don't have to do any work.
They do, yeah. And I'll give you that. You can go buy 100 gig from Lumen or a 10 gig for every 1,000 homes, but each home is going to pay $20, $30 for that backhaul because it's the only choice out there. You know, it's not going to be an inexpensive proposition. So, Chris, I challenge you this: let's pick a place in the country, and let's do some research, because you know how this works. You go out on the ISP forums and you ask people, anyone know who's got fiber out there? There isn't any like magic database somewhere.
No, we talked about this, right? We just had lunch with the guy who I won't say on here, but like, you know, he was like, where's the map of fiber? And we're like, there's no map of fiber.
There's no map of fiber. No, there is not.
Let's map one out for fun. Let's see how hard it is. Let's say we're going to set up Dawson net somewhere in where did you say, Oregon? Let's see how hard it would be.
Well, I mean, so this is where I work with Glenn Fishbein and others, and he does have a map of the publicly known sources, like Windstream, I think is public about where they are, and some of the others.
You know, we can find it.
But I mean, what I see is like so we can try and map that out. But like, I just think about the different folks I've talked to over the years who, like, you know, rural Kansas, and I was like, where do you get your backhaul? And they're like, oh, we get it from this like major cable company, which doesn't serve in the area but has fiber going through it, and like they're super happy to sell, you know, to connect folks, you know, in this point. So
all right, let's try one. Let's pick 1,000 homes somewhere and see if we can make the math work.
Okay, I'm gonna lean on you, but we can talk about it tomorrow in person.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, it's because we can talk. Everybody has an opinion. I'd be curious to actually map it out and see if we can actually make it work.
Okay, I just think we should pick one near where there are someone that we know that is an expert, so we can try and do it on our own, and then we can later go back to them and get and see if we did a good job or not.
Doug or Chris, we're gonna ask Doug for his help. So
no, an expert.
yeah.
Like, I don't know what a PERT is, but Doug used to be one.
Yeah, no, we're gonna
PERT.
Because Doug's good at reading financials, so we'll be able to say, "Here we go, Doug. Here we're gonna get 500 homes. Here's our cost. Will it work? Yes or no?"
And the answer is no. You can't build an ISP for 500 homes.
Okay, we don't need to do it, Chris. We're done.
You don't need to do it. You can't really you can't make anything under 2,000 homes work hard.
Right, but I think we've all agreed there's almost no way to start a brand new ISP, right? First of all, you need 2 years of financials in order to get the free money.
And who gets the money? The incumbent. There we go.
Incumbent means something specific, Travis. Like, let's talk about like.
I'm done. All right.
If by incumbent, I assume that you meant ILEC or massive cable company. If by incumbent you mean a company that already has service operating, meaning like the thousands of competitive ISPs, well then the money's gonna go there. But that's not what incumbent means. You're just abusing the definition. So what does the word incumbent mean to you?
Hold on. All right. So is this Chris Mitchell's incumbent or the incumbent providers that are already operating in the area?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Is like, how do you define incumbent?
Okay, I guess I'm thinking anybody that's already up and running and has a viable business.
I tell you what, this conversation is degrading to one of the worst episodes ever. We need to move on.
Okay, let's move on. But let's be clear. So an incumbent is not just someone that's been operating a business, but they've been operating in that location already.
Yes,
exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll come back. We'll work on this offline and we'll come back to it. No one took
Hey,
me
can
up
we
on
get an official incumbent definition on the next show so I can write it down so I know what it is?
All right, Chris's official incumbent definition coming.
Okay.
Oh no, here comes the Wikipedia article.
Yeah, but I got to write the Wikipedia article before I can reference it. The last thing we want to talk about is this thing in Wisconsin. So in Wisconsin, it's just one of those things, in part because and this is not political. In this case, it was Republicans who are refusing to fund the effort. But I live in Minnesota, where Democrats have refused.
Democrats
to put
did the
money
same
in.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have two states with the opposite politics in many ways, but similar layout and similar culture, similar everything else. So in Wisconsin, the governor wanted to put in $750 million into rural broadband. Wisconsin's problem, I think, is estimated at like 1.8 billion, according to the news article I saw, of needed investment. I think Wisconsin's expected to get on the order of $600 to $800 million, maybe $900 million. So at most half of the investment that's needed. And so Republicans led an effort to say, no, the federal government's putting money into Wisconsin. It would be stupid for Wisconsin to put their own money into solving this problem. Well, what they did was they basically said, like, there's half of the people that don't have internet access. We'll have to wait another 3 or 4 years to get it now, rather than moving forward with this plan. And I did want to put this in because, Travis, I think you'll appreciate this. I threw this one in, but a Democrat got a zinger in and said, so Joe Biden did his job, and now I see that we're proposing $0, said Representative Tip McGuire. That's embarrassing. So,
well, and it's
Joe
not
Biden
politics.
did his job, and the Republicans won't do theirs in Wisconsin.
It's not politics. Texas just passed a $1.5 billion grant program. So, I mean, it's not politics at all. So,
not in this level. Yeah. I mean, there are some places in which we see partisan differences, but state legislators are, even in a time of, in many cases, historic budget surpluses, refusing to invest in broadband, which I have to assume is a result of a lobbying strategy from the incumbents.
it's
because
gotta be. Yeah.
they want to see, and that's the thing. Wisconsin had been owned by AT&T, but AT&T significantly decreased their contributions and their lobbying power in Madison, but someone's still pulling the strings there. So, Travis, do you think it's, I mean, what's your reaction to that? Is it just that you don't even think it's a good time to spend $750 million, or did you have a reaction to that article?
I don't know. You know, I went over there and met with the governor last week, or a week before, I told you, and seemed like a nice guy. He's trying to do the right thing, but
all governors seem like that. That's how they get to be governor. I
guess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he seemed interested in the topic. People are excited about getting broadband out in these rural communities. Well, you know me, if there's a surplus, my theory is give it back to the people you took it from. But that's always, that's where you and I differ. So.
Not entirely.
And if Uncle Joe's going to give the state of Wisconsin a bunch of money, why wouldn't they just wait for it?
Because it's half of what they need. I mean, they need to spend $1.8 billion, and they're getting half of that. So why should they wait? I'd like to see the legislature be the ones that decide and send people cards that say, "Hey, you're not getting broadband for another 3 years because we wanted to see what Joe did first."
I don't know why they'll get it in 3 years, because if they don't do grants, they'll never get it.
Yeah. But none of those legislators.
The state's going to put rather than putting $750 million in now, the state's going to put $1 billion in at the end of this decade. That's my guess. Go ahead, Kim.
Right.
I was just going to say none of those legislators are the ones who don't have that internet that voted against that.
Yeah, not a single one.
Not a single one. It's if you have it, then I don't care. Let's save the taxpayers' money. It's a political move. At the end of the day, that is all of it is because it looks like they're the heroes coming into this by not spending the state's money.
Yeah, I would say in Wisconsin's case, it's disappointing because we were using those. They actually had a really good broadband program going, and we were using it over there in that Oshkosh area. And if you've never seen a rural fiber build, boy, it'll change your perspective when you see how difficult it is to do. It'll really change your perspective.
I will second that. I mean, I was impressed with the way Wisconsin was making sure that money went to companies that tended to be in state building fiber networks rather than giving it to out-of-state companies to build DSL, which is often on the table in these programs. So Wisconsin did a good job handling that money, and I think it's disappointing the state's not putting more into it.
But now they're not going to give any money. So yes.
Well, that's the thing now. Now that's the question we're trying to answer. Is it over now? Because if it's over, what are you thinking? 2037 when this BEAD dollars come out, Doug? I mean, we're talking a while, right?
Well, it all
No.
depends now because there could be a lawsuit against the maps that could delay it another year or two. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, my prediction is that we will see states and the federal government putting more money into this to resolve it. There is no way that we're going to see entire areas left behind with this incredibly important utility. We are going to see this utility being, whether it's this decade or next decade, we are going to see a fight back and forth. It's going to be like a teeter-totter of like who has more power, but we're going to see fights over reining in the costs and making sure that everyone has access. It's just,
but we're all fine, Chris, because the FCC wants to give $9 billion to AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and to build rural cell networks, which sounds really good, except then they're going to turn around and say we need a permanent yearly subsidy to keep them running.
Have you guys ever seen, I saw this meme on somebody's Facebook profile the other day and I thought it was funny. It was like, build back better. Where is it? Is it in permitting? Like, I was like, it's true, right? Where is this money and when is it going to get disseminated? I think it's going to be a long time. I think, Chris, that you're optimistic that you're going to start seeing money coming out in the next year.
I think we're going to see on the order of 10 to 100,000 homes that you could credibly say are where networks have been started with BEAD dollars by the next election.
I agree. If you mean 10 with 10, yes, you're
yeah.
All right, I want to leave you with one observation. As bad as we think that the rural issue is, this is what's really sad. It pales in comparison to the urban pockets.
Right.
And it's I hate to say this to these rural people had beautiful big homes and land and all this stuff. Sure, they didn't have fiber internet, but these people we serve in Minneapolis, they don't have anything. So I think it's really sad that we're spending all this money in rural and we completely disregard the urban centers.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying that for years. I mean, I think that there's a racial equity aspect to this in that rural people sounds so terrible. People who live in rural areas tend to be white, and it is politically not a big fight to get them money, to get them served. Whereas if you talk about trying to get money to North Minneapolis or to areas of recent immigrants, you're going to find that like there's a lot of reasons that people don't want to vote for that. And I think that sucks. But I also think that I don't think that's going to be the case forever. I mean, I just think that we are going to see that there is going to be programs. I don't think we're going to be at 2030 and have the kind of divide that we see right now with so many families that do not have home internet access. I think that a variety of different approaches will largely eat away at that over the next 6 years.
But I think you have to.
By then, Travis will have built the whole state of Minnesota. So.
Well, it actually is
I'll hear what Kim said.
Oh, right.
I was going to say, you're going to have a robust MDU solution to build into every one of those units to get this, to make this connectivity worth it. Because you have some connectivity in some of these urban centers. It's just crap because of how it's deployed into some of the MDUs.
Yeah.
But did I hear the FCC passed the broadband definition as gig up and gig down now? Is that true?
No. Oh,
it is? I could have swore I read that somewhere.
I think it's 2 gig.
Hey, Travis, how about if I buy you some wings tomorrow when we get together?
What is our national definition of broadband, just by the way? Do we know?
Our national definition of broadband is a mix of competing ideas from different agencies and whatnot, because I think you could use the FCC's, but no one takes it seriously anymore. It is ignored by everyone.
Well, I'm just wondering, Okay, this is my... I'm trying to get him to rant, but it's not going to happen.
I feel like
Kim has been signaling it well, but he's.
Is it really 25-3?
It's 25-3, yeah. And let's just be clear here. I think it's a perfectly good reaction for you to goad me, Travis, because I am saying that by 2030 we will solve the urban challenge with the same certainty that I said that the FCC will absolutely raise the definition. And
by 2030, Travis,
I am a stupid person.
Yeah. By 2030, the definition will be 120.
Yeah.
By 2030.
Does it work like an odometer where it goes to 0 and back again? I don't know which 2030 are we talking about? Yeah.
This is also the Chris Mitchell who said that we would have the definition changed by now. like last year. So he's just moved up his bet 7 years until he can actually win.
I mean, I am at this point only 16 months off. So if the FCC were to change the definition in the next few days, it would be about 16 months I was off.
That's not going to happen.
No, it is not. It's not going to happen anytime soon. And
because we're getting a new commissioner, though, who's going to
maybe
change it.
Maybe.
It's not going to change. Maybe.
What do we have a highlight to go out on?
Yes, I agree with all of you.
I do have that little box that guy had that does periodic speed tests. I did like that. Can we get a few of those to play with?
Yeah, I've got one in my office. It's been testing your network for months.
Can you send us a link to log in and look at it? That was pretty neat, actually. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll show you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I assume at this point that CenturyLink will schedule my fiber install for September 2nd in order to prove Doug right that he said I was not going to get it this summer. So, but they're moving along. I'm excited. There's massive slack loops on a pole on the other side of the street here. So,
then that means December 2nd. So yeah.
Well, hopefully the next time that I see you all, I will have a working video camera that doesn't glitch every 15 or 20 seconds. I've been just tearing through these things. If anyone out there has a better recommendation than PC Mag, whose recommendations suck, I'd be interested. I guess I should look at Wirecutter and pay for something.
Windows are
I'm a Windows person, but most of these cameras work for both.
Oh, okay. So is it the camera or is it the Windows?
It's an external camera because I have like dedicated monitors. But anyway, it's been a contentious. Go ahead, Kim.
Nothing. I was just gonna start dancing.
Nice. It's been a contentious and fun, in-depth episode of. Oh, before I say that, I should Rise Again Radio is having to click me off, but I think we'll be back in about 2 weeks. So stay tuned. We're hoping to get back on a regular schedule at some point here, but thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for joining me, Kim, Doug, and Travis, and we will see you all hopefully in about 2 weeks for another episode of Connect This.